The tragedy of Amy Winehouse, the star who burned too bright. Amy Winehouse didn't sound like anyone else. She didn't look like a pop star. She didn't act like one. But when she opened her mouth to sing, it was like Billie Holiday had been reborn with a London accent and a broken heart. Her voice was smoky, sad, and old beyond her years. But she was just a girl from Camden who wrote the truth in her songs, truth that came from pain. Her album, Back to Black, wasn't just a hit. It was a soul confession. Each track was like a page from her diary, torn out and put to music. Songs like Rehab and Love is a Losing Game weren't just catchy, they were cries for help. Amy didn't hide behind glitter or image. She wore her wounds on her sleeve. And people loved her for it. But fame is cruel. And Amy never wanted to play the game. The paparazzi followed her everywhere. Her addiction spiraled. Her relationships crumbled. Everyone watched, but no one really helped. In 2011, at just 27 years old, Amy Winehouse was gone. The world mourned not just a voice, but a soul that had been eaten alive by the spotlight. But even in death, her music lives. Back to Black is still one of the most celebrated albums of the 21st century. Artists from Adele to Lady Gaga call her an inspiration. Amy's life was short, but her impact? Unforgettable. And speaking of Adele, she was just getting started. And she would carry the torch Amy left behind, with grace, heartbreak, and power. The queen of heartbreak, Adele's rise to the top. Adele doesn't dance. She doesn't dress in wild costumes. She doesn't follow trends. She just stands there and sings. And somehow, that's enough to bring millions of people to tears. Born in Tottenham, raised by a single mother, Adele started writing songs after heartbreak. Real heartbreak. Not fairy tale drama. The kind where you're crying in your kitchen, wondering where everything went wrong. Her album, 21, was filled with that kind of pain, and people felt it. Someone Like You, Rolling in the Deep, Set Fire to the Rain. These songs weren't just hits. They were healing. They helped people cry, grieve, and move on. Adele became the voice of every broken heart. And yet, she never lost her honesty. She cracked jokes in interviews, swore on stage, and always acted like a normal girl with an extraordinary gift. She disappeared when she needed to, took time off, came back stronger. With 30, she told a different story, one of divorce, motherhood, and growing older. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being real. Adele reminded the world that you don't need auto-tune or gimmicks. You just need the truth. And while she brought tears to the eyes of millions, another woman across the ocean was starting a revolution, one that would bring country music into the stadiums and turn diary entries into global anthems. Taylor Swift, the girl who wrote her way into music history. Taylor Swift was just a teenager with curly hair and a guitar when she first appeared on the country music scene. She didn't have the biggest voice. She didn't come from a famous family. But what she had was a pen. And she used it like a sword. While other girls her age were writing in diaries, Taylor was writing hits. Her early songs like Teardrops on My Guitar and Love Story felt like chapters from a young girl's life. Heartbreak, crushes, best friends, betrayal, she made them sound like poetry. And people connected instantly. But what made Taylor different was how she grew up in public. She moved from country to pop with 1989. Then she dropped a surprise indie album during lockdown with Folklore. And with each new sound, her words stayed honest. Even when critics mocked her for dating too much, writing too much, or speaking out too much, Taylor never backed down. In fact, she used the hate as fuel. She fought for her music rights. She re-recorded her albums to take back her legacy. She turned pain into platinum. And her fan base? Unstoppable. Taylor isn't just a singer. She's a storyteller. A businesswoman. A force. From awkward teen to global icon, she did it all without pretending to be anyone else. And as she filled stadiums around the world, one thing became clear: Taylor Swift wrote her way into history. But long before Taylor ever picked up a pen, another woman had already changed what it meant to be a singer-songwriter. A woman whose words painted dreams, and whose voice echoed through generations. Her name? Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell, the poet who painted with words. Joni Mitchell wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing the truth. Born in Canada, she taught herself how to play guitar after surviving polio as a child. She didn't sound like anyone else. She didn't want to. Her voice had a wild, floating quality, sometimes joyful, sometimes full of sadness. But always real. She wrote about love, freedom, nature, loneliness. And when she released Blue in 1971, critics didn't just call it an album, they called it a masterpiece. Songs like A Case of You and River captured emotion so pure, they didn't even feel like songs anymore. They felt like moments from your own life. Other artists listened closely. Bob Dylan admired her. The Prince worshipped her. Even Taylor Swift calls her a massive influence. But Joni never fit into the mold. She challenged the music industry. She walked away from the spotlight when it got too loud. And then, years later, she returned. In 2015, Joni suffered a brain aneurysm and couldn't even speak. But she fought. She relearned how to talk, how to sing. And in 2022, at age 78, she shocked the world by stepping on stage again. Joni's story is one of survival, of timeless art, of a woman who never needed a spotlight to shine. And while she shaped the roots of music with her poetry, another woman exploded like a firework, raw, theatrical, and impossible to ignore.